All right, then I call the Redevelopment Commission meeting to order. This meeting is being conducted by video conference. The public has been invited to participate in this meeting by joining the Zoom webinar. There may be opportunities for the public to give oral testimony during today's meeting. If you're interested in speaking, please let staff know by emailing ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov. When it is time to take public comment, staff will monitor the email inbox, the Zoom participant list, and the Zoom chat to see if anyone would like to speak. We will take comments in the order they are received and seen. The public may submit written comments by email to ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov. Spanish translation services are available upon request. The public is asked to request translation and other meeting accessibility services at least 48 hours before the meeting. Contamos con servicio de traducción en español cuando sea solicitado. Se pide al público que solicite servicios de traducción y otros servicios de accesibilidad para reuniones por lo menos 48 horas antes de la reunión. Translation services are also available in other languages. The public is asked to request translation and other meeting accessibility services at least 48 hours before the meeting. All right, our first item is approval of the minutes. Is there any discussion about the December 7th commission meeting minutes? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the December 7th, 2021 Redevelopment Commission meeting minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously. First item of business is the MRC, the Milwaukie Redevelopment Community Advisory Committee appointment and terms change resolution. And this will be introduced by Scott Stauffer, our city recorder.
Thank you, everybody. Good to see you this evening, and thank you for giving us time to talk about it. This first item is really just a housekeeping item. I tried to combine a couple of things that we've asked the commission to do regarding the Community Advisory Committee into one resolution, so I hope it got articulated well enough. But the proposed resolution will do three things. It'll update the Clackamas Fire District representative. It's an ex officio position, I realize, but it also was listed in the original resolution. So while we were here, the commission has been informed that Doug Whiteley is now the fire district representative to that board. In keeping with the city's recent action to change all board and committee terms to end in June 30th, we thought it would be prudent to keep the CAC in line with the rest of the city's boards and commissions. So the second ask is that the resolution would move all the CAC term end dates to end June 30. And then while I was in the process of writing the report, I realized that the MRC's bylaws calls for the CAC visit terms to be staggered. You know, pretty classic best practice for a volunteer committee, so you don't lose your entire slate all at once. Realized that the original resolution didn't do that. So while we did that, I thought, let's also stagger the terms. They're pretty random in terms of just the first four were 23 and the second were 24 to split it like that. So it's sort of a mashup resolution, but a couple of housekeeping items, and then open any questions you might have.
Kathy?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that folks knew that Doug Whiteley has been attending our meetings throughout. The chief never attended, and he's been an active participant since day one. So it's really just that in the resolution, we had named the chief instead of Doug, but he's been great to have on the committees from day one.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the resolution making an appointment to the MRC Community Advisory Committee, extending term dates and staggering terms.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution making an appointment to the MRC Community Advisory Committee, extending the term dates and staggering terms. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Scott. All right. Our next item is the MRCCAC bylaws adoption and the MRC 5-year action plan. It's both a resolution and a report. This will be introduced by the Commission Executive Director, Kelly Brooks.
Hi, Kelly Brooks, and I wanted to apologize. We actually, the advisory committee developed and adopted these bylaws like 4 or 5 months ago. We just didn't bring them to you. So I apologize for Scott pointed out the error that we needed to make sure and get your approval. They have been in place for a little while at the committee level. They are largely following the updated template of bylaws that Scott created for all boards and commissions, so should look pretty familiar to you. The one modification that we made was related to the chair and voting. The chair of the advisory body is Commissioner Heisey, and she votes last. So, and the purpose of that is really to facilitate discussion and allow the group to come to consensus and have to take that step back to facilitate that. So that's the one modification that we made was just related to the chair's voting role on the committee, and the rest of it is consistent. So with that, we were hoping you could adopt them so they're official.
So we're going to do these as separate items, or are we adopting the report and the?
I'm actually not asking you all to adopt the report tonight. It's still in draft form. So the only thing that the only action here is to adopt the resolution related to the bylaws. And then the draft report will just be an informational item.
Okay. Any questions or comments? I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the resolution adopting the Community Advisory Committee bylaws.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the resolution adopting the Community Advisory Committee bylaws. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously. All right. So are there further commission reports?
I think the main commission report is really the 5-year action plan, the draft, and just discussing that with you all. We covered a lot of the substance of it at the last meeting when we talked about the investment proposal. So the different projects, there hasn't really been change to that. I've now wrapped them up in a draft report. However, I have had more engagement. So I just want to walk you through some of the engagement that we've done. That is going to be something that I add to the report to finalize it. And then I want to talk through next steps, because soon we're going to start moving into, as long as I'm hearing from you all that you're starting to feel good about where we're landing with the action plan, then we move into those implementation steps, like make sure these projects are in the CIP, getting agreements with cooperative agreements with the relative agencies, and then also doing more outreach related to program development and implementation. So I think with that, I am going to share my screen. Let's see. Okay, hopefully you all are seeing my slides and not any notes.
Yeah.
All right, great. So thank you for adopting the bylaws. As I just mentioned to Scott, far too late in this process. We have had one resignation. Bonnie has stepped down, so we are going to need to replace her. She just felt like she couldn't commit the time to it, but she was really appreciative to have been involved in all the ways that she was. I did include her in the draft report as a named entity because she did 99% of the work to get us to that place, but we are going to need to replace her. Okay, so in your packets, I gave you a draft, and it's pretty draft still. So I apologize for any errors or anything that you found in there. I'm open to receiving those. It definitely needs a bit more editing. But I do feel like it's getting close to capturing the process that we went through to develop the proposal, a little bit more description, hopefully a little easier to understand descriptions of the projects and investments along with some pictures. And then a summary of the financial analysis that went into projecting the $10 million amount that we're working on for the first 5 years. So the hope is that I hear tonight any major concerns that you have with that. Hopefully you'll bless me to continue doing the edits and refinements needed. I most likely would like to come back to you if I can and put that in some kind of a consent format, because you all have a really busy spring. And I don't know how much more time you have to talk to me about this in the midst of comp plan code packages and whatnot. But then we are taking a series of steps, which you'll hear about at the end, to kind of then implement this action plan. So just as a refresher, I'm not going to go back through all the projects, but we're sitting at $9,257,000 in program and project costs. There will be some administrative costs that I'm working through that would be staffing related to this. That's accounted for in the financial projections. There's up to 4% of resources can go towards administration. I am still working through what that will look like for us. And that will be clear to you when you see the budget, when you actually see that budget presentation for MRC. It will reflect the FTE related to this. I just don't have that all dialed right at this moment in time. But yeah, so we're looking at $3.325 million in development. Remember, quite a bit of that is actually going into the CET for affordable housing. The rest is going into tenant improvements and storefront improvement and a lot of different projects related to incentivizing development. Infrastructure, this is both downtown and central Milwaukie combined, and then parks and open space. Right now, those two projects are Dogwood Park and helping realign the trolley trail. Is what the two that are identified at this moment. The rest of this is really going to focus, and it won't take too long, honestly, but I've been working through kind of the NDAs. I've talked to Historic Milwaukie. I'm going to the leadership committee meeting next week with all the NDAs just to check in with them as well. And I suspect that's going to trigger a couple additional presentations, probably to Lake and Ardenwald and, potentially Island Station. I'm not sure. So I'll see. They may want to talk more. So I'm holding the rest of this month in terms of just making sure I get in with NDA partners that want to talk through this a little bit more. But we have had quite a bit of engagement on Engage Milwaukie, which is nice. So we have had a couple different surveys and a Q&A function that have been up for about a month and a half. I've had 89 participants really actively engaged, and I'm going to show you how they responded to different survey questions. We've had at least 214 people do what we call being aware. So they've actually visited the frequently asked questions, they've downloaded a document, they've visited multiple pages, and then 477 participants have at least visited one page on the site. And I think I'm probably 75 of those visits. I haven't checked, but I think I have gone to the site a lot. So we'll run that down for you. But I think the most important ones to focus on tonight are really these active participants and what they shared, because I think it's been really interesting. I've also gotten the most referrals off of our city website. We have gotten a little from Facebook, and then people just Googling it, which is interesting. I do not have extensive demographic breakdown tonight, but I am planning to put that in the actual report as an attachment. So I apologize in advance for not being able to answer all those questions tonight. So I want to ask everyone this all the time now, but I just want to ask what do you think makes Milwaukie special? And there was a lot of common themes. I heard from a lot of folks. We had 74 responses to this question, which is pretty good. It was open-ended. They could say whatever they wanted. The small town feel came up a lot. Really feeling a connection to the river has been really important for people. Not Portland, like a lot of people said, not Portland. And the people, I heard a lot of different responses touched on it was the people of Milwaukie. So whether that came through the community or the diversity of the community, family friendly, the events, feeling of safety, just being able to get to the beaches and the mountains quickly, something people like. Trees, like that it's walkable. Locally owned businesses are important to people. Affordability. Farmers market and city hall specifically came up of things that are important to folks. And then transit. Most of the time when people talked about transit, they were referencing the MAX. But I appreciate all of you all who weighed in on this as well. But it was kind of, I want to ask it all the time, but I will stop. But it was probably the most fun thing that I got back was just hearing from people what they think makes us special. So the next one is I asked a series of questions about the types of economic development. And some of these you might say, well, of course, everybody thinks that. They were pretty easy questions, but I did have 81 respondents strongly agree, or 81 respondents strongly agree or somewhat agree with the statement that I want to help existing businesses stay in Milwaukie. So this was a core theme in the original plan, and I just wanted to test it. I'm not surprised that people want to help existing businesses, but it just does mean that we need to keep that front of mind as we move forward with implementation of our programs. 84 respondents strongly agree or somewhat agree with the statement that we'd like to have a vibrant Main Street. Again, not a huge shocker, but it does validate some of the decisions that we're making in the investments on Main Street. And then 77 respondents strongly agree or somewhat agree with the statement that I want to help people in Milwaukie start or expand their businesses. And this is helpful. I think it kind of dovetails in with I want to help existing businesses, right? So probably overlapping quite a bit there. This one was a little bit different. And I think ties in with a lot of the comments we were hearing about small town feel. But I would like to see large developments that bring services and amenities currently missing from our community. And the reason why we asked this question is this was kind of a major discussion point that we had. I've had it now at the Historic NDA. We've had it with the advisory committee. We've had it in a lot of places, to be honest. And it's what comes first, the chicken and the egg? Do you need these larger scale developments to bring in sort of the foot traffic or the things that we feel like we're missing to activate the space? And I think what we heard is a really mixed response. Some feel pretty strongly like, nope, don't want big developments. It's not what I'm looking for. I like the small town feel. Whereas, we have 22 respondents who are like, yes, that's what I want. I want the things I don't currently have. I want this to feel more like Saltwood. I've heard that a couple different times, right? At mix of restaurants. So this was just, again, kind of, I think for me, the main takeaway moving forward is the blend is important. The mix is important. It can't be all big stuff. It has to have some small focused programming around existing businesses and kind of smaller opportunities.
Sorry, go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly timed with everyone else tonight. Kelly, I was just wondering if you could clarify a little. I'm wondering if large developments, what that meant to the survey taker, because when you say some people want Sellwood to me actually is a plethora of small businesses. By and large, there's, New Season has a store, but I really think of that as being lots of small, locally owned businesses. So I guess I need some clarification from you.
That's a good question. And it could just be poor framing on my part, to be honest. I think when I heard, like when people would push back, like I got some comments kind of about the photo of axle tree that I used. It's axle tree feels big.
Okay.
But I also did hear, I want more like Sellwood. And I probably conflated the two in an unhelpful way. Although there's a lot of larger, yeah, I guess maybe too, it's just like biased a little bit in terms of what I'm seeing pop up in Sellwood versus what was already there. So there are quite a few multi-story developments that have popped up in Sellwood that have active retail space on the bottom. So I think you're pointing out probably just a flaw in the way I asked the question.
Well, but that's helpful to me because I was thinking large development as anchor tenants in a building, not the building itself. So I think you're probably right that is how people were interpreting it, particularly if that's the response people had to the axle tree photo. So that helps. Thanks.
Any other questions about this before I
Yeah, I
move
sort
on?
of had a similar vein. I was curious how, in what context this question was asked. More specifically, was there any conversation about, the reality is that a lot of businesses aren't going to come into an area until there is a certain population density to support them?
I can say that in the in-person conversations I've had, that nuance is not even a nuance. It's an obvious fact, and it's one that's openly discussed. In terms of the survey, no. I think people are more reacting to, you ask me what I like, and I like small, and I like safe, and I like family friendly, and I like quaint. And this sounds like not that. Is probably the tension more I'm picking up from on the survey, but I didn't provide any context about that. So this is just a blunt kind of reaction from however the person perceived it when they took it. But when I have talked with people about it, they absolutely get that. And they realize that if more people live behind a potential grocery store, that they get a grocery store. Like, people make that connection.
Good. All right. Thanks.
And I will say, I didn't include a slide for this, but I did do an open Q&A. So anybody that wanted to ask a question about anything, I would just come on and respond. Most people asked about grocery store. That was the most common question that I got repeatedly. So it was helpful actually during this that we could report that there's some activity on that. That was beneficial. The other question I got was, well, how are you going to use this? And then I got a couple that were related to kind of the challenges of the tool itself. So you say this doesn't raise taxes, but it defers taxes and can't that cause harm? So I tried to be really open and transparent about absolutely this defers taxes to help build infrastructure within this area. So that was mainly, but I would say most folks that got on really wanted, and I think that may have been in part too, just because that was what was active on Facebook at the time, is that we were sharing that information about the grocery store, and then people were seeing this connection. Okay, so then I asked.
Kathy, do you have another question?
Oh, sorry.
Still up. Okay, sorry.
So then this was the only one was like a forced ranking. So I made people pick what they thought would be most helpful to businesses. And I kind of wanted this information before we go do more targeted business outreach for implementation, just to see what not business people think is helpful to businesses. So the lowest was the small business loan program for capital and equipment needs. And I did in the survey, I gave examples. I cut those out here, but I did say like this could buy a coffee roaster. So I tried to actually tell people what you could do with it if you picked it. Interior tenant improvements came in next. Storefront improvement grant program, updated signage and to highlight signature events came in pretty high. And we do have that in the plan. So to try to do some updated signage on 99E in particular, because those signs are out of date. And it specifically mentioned the farmer's market, which I think also is probably why it popped up this high. That's important to folks. And then secure bike parking. I was surprised that this was as high as it was, but it came in top. And we have that. We have that as a part of our parking strategy implementation, is to build some more secure bike parking downtown. So that was a nice thing to see, to kind of help reassure me that we were heading in the right direction with that one. So I'm gonna get off sharing my screen here in a minute. But so we need to adopt the plan. If you all give me kind of a head nod tonight, I'm going to keep tweaking it and I'll probably bring it back to you on a consent item. The next step is to actually adopt the budget. So you'll see these different investments pop up in the capital improvement program that you all are going to be reviewing through that process. And you will see the staffing associated with the MRC budget page. We really do now have to turn towards more targeted business outreach and program development. I have done some business outreach, but not nearly enough. So before we go develop any loan programs or storefront improvement programs or tenant improvement programs, we have to actually connect with the users of those programs. So that would involve, honestly, just walking around and talking to people and scheduling appointments with our businesses and potential users of them, but also going around to partner cities. So I have Beaverton and Tigard on my list. They have pretty well developed TIF programs. They do a lot of this work. So it's to go learn from them about how they run them and the criteria and how they do it. Another entity that's on our list, which Commissioner Heisey and I haven't had a chance to go do, but I still really want to do, is go talk to MRCCAC to see if they can partner with us on the loan program or something like MRCCAC. This is a very small amount of money. So we are looking for someone that knows how to do it, that could potentially be a really good implementation partner for us. And then cooperative agreements for joint capital projects. So we talked about it last time. There are a couple different things on this list that are not ours alone. So Kellogg Dam, Milwaukie Bay Park are the two that pop up immediately to mind. Before we bond or take on any debt, we have to actually have cooperative agreements that spell out who's responsible for what and when other people's money flows. So that will be a bit of a lift, but that's why those items were scheduled a little bit further out. Milwaukie Bay Park, if it keeps going and it's on schedule, that there's already agreements in place to kind of walk through the financing of those that have been under development for some time. Kellogg will take more effort, but it's time to spell that out, particularly since federal funds are flowing, who's doing what. But I think the main thing that we would need to really bond this money for Kellogg is an agreement with the state. So something that indicates that if we spend this money on this design work for the bridge, that there's a complementary investment from the state to complete the project. So those are kind of conversations that are going to take some time, but will be required for the, I think for you all to feel at all comfortable issuing debt for some of those things. And then a bonding schedule. So after we have those, not everything worked out, but we have most of it figured out, then we know when we need to issue debt for various things in a responsible way. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. I feel like there was one other thing I was supposed to tell you. I think that's it. What did I miss? Anything? Okay. I think we're getting close.
I was curious to see the projection of income, and I wondered if in doing that projection they were taking into account Coho and Henley Apartments and the developments we know about. So they did take all that into that.
Yeah, this is where my little stint as community development director was so helpful for a minute there, because I actually sat down with a consultant and I went development by development, and and I said, okay, I think this one's going to go. This one just pulled permits. Like, I mean, it got actually pretty granular to try to project as close as we could. I did remember, Commissioner Beatty, you remind me, I did not say this. Somewhere, either in the staff report or in the draft report, I have listed Commissioner Heisey as ex officio. She is not. She very much can vote. So I will correct that error. I just want to make that clear. She is not an ex officio member. That was the one thing that I knew I needed to say.
It was in the resolution.
The resolution. Okay.
So Oregon City did some pretty cool stuff with their Main Street with their program, and then Wilsonville also did some pretty cool stuff. So just to throw it out. it was Wilsonville that actually convinced me that I was willing to do this.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. When planning took the tour, I mean, we didn't go to Wilsonville, but we went to Oregon City and LO, and I think people were pretty impressed with LO as well.
Yeah, well, LLO, you sort of just go, yeah, well, it's just floating on money over there. So who cares?
Yeah. I know. I don't have the floating on money problem. Yeah, okay, that's good. So Oregon City, Wilsonville, and Lake Oswego. Yeah, I think we're at that stage where I think we have a good idea of what we think we can be successful in the first 5 years, which is this is really helpful for. But the actual details of how to do that and to make sure that everything is done in a way that's consistent with what's eligible for TIF is kind of the next major endeavor.
I think Kelly has made this really clear, but I just want to say it for anybody who's watching. Any projects that we have on here have to be constructed. So we can't pull debt and then sit on the cash, which is why she's being so tight with where the projects are. They have to be in plans that we're already intending to do, or they have to have a lot of structure around them for us to feel confident that we're going to get the funds out. So I appreciate how she's looked at this. There's always more things we'd love to put into place, but making sure that the dollars are spent is going to be a critical part of making sure that this remains financially intelligent and smart.
And I'll just add that, looking at Tigard's TIF expenditures and the way they structure them, I think the values behind what they did are really in alignment with what we've brought to the table. So I think that's part of why you're hearing Kelly talk about that. That was one of the examples we looked at on the Community Advisory Committee, and they have done some really fun, exciting things that I think are very much the kind of things that this council has been interested in.
If you guys end up going to tour Tigard, I would be interested in joining you. I've heard things about it, but I've never gotten to see what they did over there.
Take some road trips.
Cool.
Okay, and then I also just want to flag that after the first 2 years, at some point we're going to have an updated TSP. I think that may change some of what we want to do and where we want to go. So I envision there being another real look at this that we want to do in 2 years after we have that project list in place. Yeah. Particularly to address some of the issues and concerns that popped up related to kind of geographic equity and making sure that we can look and see what additional projects and investments we learn, which I suspect we're going to learn in Central Milwaukee through that process, are needed. So I just want to flag that, and I can reference that in the adopted plan as well, because I'm just realizing I didn't. But I'd say that's the next stop in terms of, okay, let's stop, look, and see what we learn through our modeling and TSP work. Yeah,
that was the one tiny little piece that I wondered about when I talked about the trolley trail and talked about Monroe. But that intersection of the trolley trail and Monroe is not good. And thus far, on every single plan that we've ever produced, it remains not good. And it's not a big deal. It's not like a big expensive fix. It's just something that needs fixed. So just throwing it out there.
This should help. Okay, we'll take up a bunch more of your time, but I really do. If like I said, if you're okay, we're gonna kind of break into. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna get the draft plan buttoned up and give it to you. Probably won't make you talk to me about it again, and then we'll move into implementation. And I'm more than happy to bring any and all folks along to whatever visits you'd like to come to kind of to learn more about how these programs can operate.
It's over.
Just so because she's done an excellent job. So I want to just call out how much I appreciate Kelly on this. She stepped in and she stepped up at a time when I really needed a leader on this. And I really appreciate both her and Commissioner Heisey and their leadership around this. The second piece I wanted to say is the reason Kelly is here tonight. I think, again, it's been clear, but just to make sure, these projects are going in the budget and we're building it now. So in the next 2 weeks, we are going to be putting this literally into our spreadsheets. And it's going to be used in our balancing documents. So if there's anything you want to say about the projects or you're concerned about something not going on consent, I actually need it to come out tonight Just so that we can address it, because otherwise this document is going to be pretty solid, and we're going to proceed as if we have your support. And there's nothing. Yay, good job, Kelly. Excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Nomine Patri Sancti. Asked for a blessing, didn't you?
I did, and that was an excellent one, so thank you.
I don't think I've had an altar boy moment on camera with you yet, Mayor. That was really something.
That was it. That was it. All
Okay, I
right,
think that's it for tonight.
cool. Let me find the script again. I think it's pretty basic. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to
I
adjourn.
move to adjourn the commission meeting.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adjourn the commission meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.